Hi, this is Mr. Waterproof iPhone Case, or Bruce McComb as I'm known to real people. With me today I have a very brave and intrepid and determined gentleman who is the founder of White Tag and Tag for Life and is heavily involved in the tagging of great white sharks to find out, to create data on where the sharks go and what they do. With me here is Kent Stannard. Pleased to have you on board, Kent.
Thanks, Bruce.
Kent, now, can you tell us a little bit about White Tag and Tag for Life?
Yes, they're two separate entities, but I actually started Tag for Life first. So it was actually my interest in sharks that really got Tag for Life up and running. I think growing up on the coast, certainly in the Southern Ocean, it's buried in your DNA somewhere about the presence of sharks and surfing.
Indeed.
So I was actually lucky enough to go to a lecture about 10 to 12 years ago that was run by Australia's leading white shark scientist from the CSIRO.
Righto.
And that was quite amazing, and I think after that I had this preconceived notion that I'd seen scientists on big boats with flash gear that this could be a potential career path. Living the life. And it looked as though that they were just swimming in funds and life was grand on the high seas.
Right.
Anyway, I met up, so this particular scientist, his name's Barry Bruce. He's Australia's leading white shark scientist.
I like his second name.
Yep. Anyway, we met up after the lecture and I just got a bit of a feel on where they were at. And long and short of it, they were in the infancy stages of doing satellite tagging of juvenile white sharks. So they pioneered it here in Victoria.
Yep.
Back in 2000. And anyway, I thought, well, actually, we can probably give you a hand to put some of the tracking gear out at some of these locations.
Yep.
And
2000, that's, most people would think it's 2015 now. I, in my mind, would think they've been doing this for the last few years. Were these gentlemen, involved in the very first or the very start of creating this tracking sort of devices?
These guys were actually the pioneers of it. So, right. And that's on a global level.
Right.
So it all happened here on our back doorstep, effectively.
Aussies. Yep. Oh, that's amazing. And,
yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit about what that involves? I remember you telling me that there's two forms of tracking devices you use.
Yeah. So anyway, what happened was we were looking at the juvenile white sharks to begin with, and then we were just extending the information to incorporate adult white sharks, which meant that some of these receivers or tracking devices had to be put out at seal colonies. So it then involved getting friends on board who were abalone divers and licence holders, and then friends that were commercial fishermen, members of my family that have been in the maritime industry.
Oh, really? Mm.
Yeah. So, it's never been just a case of jumping in a dinghy with a couple of mates and heading off on a fishing expedition. It's actually pretty high tech. So,
right.
Yeah, anyway, it started off by putting out receivers at the seal colonies that pick up the tags from the sharks.
Righto. So that's one form of the tagging, isn't it? Or the receivers.
So the receivers pick up the information from the tags. So, and lo and behold,
I got one.
As fate would have it,
I thought it was a bomb
sitting on the table. So this is what a receiver looks like. Effectively, it's an underwater brain, probably 400 odd mil long. So we have these scattered around the Australian coast. There's arrays of them. In fact, there's 7 or 8 arrays, I think. They run out from the Australian coast to the continental shelf.
Right, that's a long way.
Yeah, and what they do is they pick up the code from each tag, or a pulse that's given off from the tag. So each one of the tags has a individual code.
Right.
So we know when shark 35 swims into an area.
Righto. So these are right out in a line from the coast out to the edge. So as the sharks swim through, it'll trigger the beacon.
Yeah.
And
Pretty much.
when they go through the next array, so you can see how far they're off and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, so the idea behind these is to, there's a particular tag that we use for these, so it's called an acoustic tag, and these are known as acoustic receivers.
Right.
So these acoustic tags are shaped a bit like a lipstick, about the same length and cylindrical.
Right.
About 200 mil long. Anyway, we insert those in the stomach lining of the shark. They send off a signal to the underwater receivers. The shark has to be within 500 metres of each one of the receivers.
Right.
And what that tells us is when they arrive, how long they stick around for, and when they leave. So it basically gives us an idea on their behaviour.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, that's good. And how do you get them? I have to ask this question. How do you get them in the shark's stomach? I mean, these are ferocious animals.
You stay away from the sharp end for a start. So what we do is we catch the sharks on baited hooks.
Right.
Barbless baited hooks.
Yep.
It's quite a procedure actually. So effectively what we try and do is hook them on the left-hand side of the jaw, and that seems a bit odd, but in actual fact, when you're bringing the shark around the back of the boat, it means that if you've hooked it on the left-hand side of the jaw, it's actually almost straight next door to you, so you don't have to lean over and have to get the hook out later. You can effectively
get at it easily. Yeah.
Exactly. So what we do is once the shark's tired out, we bring them alongside into the stretcher and then basically roll them over.
Right.
So roll them over.
Does that sedate them? I've heard about that if you can tip a shark over onto its back, that it sort of goes into a bit of a hypnotic state, so to speak.
Yeah, I think that they, by and large, as soon as you get them into the stretcher, they seem to calm down. And we also run oxygenated water over them, so sharks need to be swimming constantly. So we have this oxygen feed that's pumping oxygenated water through their gills, and
so a tube in their mouth.
Not in their mouth; it's just
in front of them.
Just in front.
Right.
And that seems to sedate them as well. So then we tip them over on their back and make a surgical incision in their belly.
Right.
And then the tag's actually inserted in the exterior lining of the stomach.
Righto. Between the outside of the stomach or inside?
Inside.
Inside the stomach.
Exactly. Oh, there's a stomach and then there's an outside stomach lining, and it's between those.
Oh, righto. Yeah. Right.
So anyway, we do that and then stitch them back up and post them on their way. And so that procedure might take 10 to 12 minutes, perhaps. So it's a bit like
once it's in the stretcher sort of thing.
It's a bit like a Formula One pit crew.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Everyone has their job description.
Yep.
Who tightens the wheel nuts?
So they're experienced people you're working with then.
Exactly.
Now, what happens if you get a shark? I know there's some very large sharks out there. What happens if you get a massive great white that doesn't fit in the stretcher?
Well, there's a different strategy. So with the stretcher, that's for sharks really up to about 3 metres.
Right.
For sharks larger than 3 metres, it's a completely different method again. So effectively, we have to catch them again. So we still use the baited hook scenario.
Yes.
Contrary to what people think, you don't actually need large hooks to catch these animals. It's the same principle. You're just trying to actually hook them in the jaw.
Corner of the mouth.
Yep. And then what happens is the floats do the work. So it's actually the gear you use.
So you've got floats on the line as well.
So what happens is we might have 2 large floats or 1 large float on the line to start with.
Yep.
Shark will take the bait.
Yep.
Take off, and their inclination is to dive, so they want to get out of there as quick as possible.
Yes. Yeah.
So they're fighting against this weight, and they tend to run with the line, and the floats are actually attached to shark clips that can slide up and down the line.
Okay, righto.
So what we do is, as the line's running out, we attach more clips and more floats.
Yep.
So it basically creates more resistance to the shark. So eventually, you know, its will to dive is, it tires itself out and it comes to the surface. And then we can bring it alongside the boat, and what we try and do is tail rope them.
Okay, yeah, righto.
And
like a lasso over the back.
Yep. So the tail's probably the most dangerous piece of equipment on a shark.
Right, from your point of view on the side of the boat anyway,
And then what we do is we make a lasso that goes over the front of the shark. So that then slides over the pectoral fins, just in behind the pectoral fins. And then the shark's secured to the boat. And
that's between the gills as well, isn't it? So the gills are still free.
Exactly. Same thing, oxygen feed over the shark's mouth. And then that lasso arrangement at the front, we can rotate it in such a way that even a 5 metre shark, you can actually turn it over on its back.
Yeah, righto. Sweet whiz. And at this stage, they're quite placid, so they're not stressed or anything. They're just
fairly placid. So they're pretty much worn out from
from diving and thrashing around.
Yep.
Oh, good. And then, do you use the same stomach tags with those ones?
Same stomach tags. So the acoustic tags.
Yes.
And these are long life tags. So they have a battery about 10 years.
10 years.
10 years. So you can actually, the benefit of those is you can monitor a shark's behaviour from, say, juvenile stage right through to adulthood, and that gives you information on the areas
growth phase and everything.
Exactly. Growth phase, areas that they use. When they get to a certain size, they'll move into other areas.
Righto. So they sort of
gives you a bit of an overview of their life cycle.
Yeah, righto. So that's as opposed to just getting the old big ones. They're probably loners, got a whole different system altogether.
It's just, to be honest, try to tag big sharks is contrary to what everyone thinks. It's not the be all and end all. I mean, it provides great information about movement patterns and pathways, but it's a costly exercise. Anything to do with the marine environment and marine research is really expensive, whether it's sharks, whatever.
Right.
And
so of course you've got all that equipment. Like for instance, how much is one of these setups? Just one single tag and just the tag itself, other than this?
Well, okay. So for example, the listening station itself, that might be $1,000.
Right.
And an acoustic tag that goes in the stomach lining, that might be $400 odd.
Righto. Yep.
And then there's the other type of tag. So there's 3 tags that we use primarily. There's the acoustic tag, which is the one in the stomach. So that's the one for behaviour.
Yes.
Then there's the one that everybody sees on television, the satellite tag, which is fastened to the dorsal fin.
Righto.
And they're about $5,000 plus the satellite time.
Oh, really? So you have to pay for that as well?
Yep.
Gee.
So you got satellite
and these sharks, does it detect them while they're underwater or only when they're on the surface?
Satellite tags are reliant on the shark surfacing.
Right.
So they have a saltwater switch. So when the shark dives,
turns itself off.
Turns
Does
itself
it say
off.
battery life?
No, the battery life in the satellite tag's about 18 months.
Right. Oh,
well, it depends. Nowadays they've got there's a newer type of satellite tag that can last up to 3 to 5 years, but they're massive. They're a massive tag, and to be honest with you, we really don't like putting too much equipment on the exterior of animals because
it will affect their way of life a bit in the end, won't it?
Absolutely, and they accumulate all sorts of debris and growth. Exactly. So,
and I imagine they'd be rubbing themselves on rocks too, trying to get rid of it, which wouldn't help as well.
Exactly.
Right. So, as a tracking thing, for the satellite one, you're only detecting them when they're on the surface. How long, like they're fish, they can stay underwater for huge periods
They
of
can
time?
stay underwater for weeks.
Weeks.
Exactly.
So you're thinking you're tracking this shark and then suddenly it appears 1,000 miles away. And you think, oh, it's safe to go surfing here, but yeah, no.
Well, the other thing is too that, which people also think is that with the satellite tags it gives you real-time information, but in actual fact you need the shark to surface 3 times for it to triangulate a position.
Righto, yeah.
And that not necessarily means that that position is spot on. It could be within a couple of kilometres, it could be within 100 metres.
Well, if that shark's travelling and it surfaces 1 week here, 1 week there, 1 week there, and it triangulates it in the middle.
Exactly.
So it's not that accurate.
Exactly. So that's why this sort of methodology is not really used for public safety.
Right, I can understand that.
Yeah.
If it's not accurate, it's not accurate.
No, it's really the purpose. The purpose of this sort of technology is for science and research.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So you're tracking, you're seeing how far it travels, you know, the
Pathways.
basic route it's going on,
Pathways it uses.
depths and things like that as well.
Exactly.
Yep. And did you mention there's a third tracking device?
Yeah, there's actually one that's known as a pop-off satellite archival tag. So with that method, we don't need to catch the shark. So what we do there is, which is used primarily for larger sharks, the shark can swim past the boat, and we have this.
I wondered what this was.
Yes, this is a Hawaiian sling. So
Being modified.
yes, so
It's not for flounder.
Well, it can be.
Yeah, I suppose. Big one.
You can do whatever you like with it.
Yeah.
Anyway, the tag slots over the top of that.
Right.
It's got an arrowhead on it. Slots over the top.
Like a barbed arrowhead sort of thing.
Exactly.
Catches in, yeah.
Yep. And when the shark swims past, we apply the tag to just in behind the dorsal fin.
Right.
It has to penetrate that distance, so the shark has a skin like a road surface.
Really? Yeah, right. So
Like-
that's hence the rubber on the sling.
Exactly. So that's probably 100 mil that penetrates for the
So is that
for the
into
arrowhead.
its flesh then, or is that still in its skin, hide?
It's basically the hide, but
Right.
but its exterior is really muscle. So
Okay, righto.
it goes into its muscle tissue.
Right.
And this little cylindrical object here on the side, that actually takes a tissue sample at the same time.
Oh, really?
So for every tag shark,
Yep.
we take a portion of skin or
Righto.
tissue.
Yeah, it's quite sharp.
Yep.
Right. And why would you take a skin sample?
Well, the purpose behind that is to, and that's part of the project we're involved with at the moment. It's about sourcing their DNA.
Oh, righto. Yeah.
So it's about mapping their genetics.
Right. So you take a sample from a juvenile, a sample from a huge shark, 1,000 miles away, and you realise it's from the same family.
We end up with this database of information that's been accumulated over 20 years of taking tissue samples.
Right. 20 years.
20 years.
That's how long it's been going on.
Yep. So
We're just a little bit behind the times here.
So it's just been 20 years of accumulating data,
Right.
tissue data,
Yep.
and
It's
then
amazing.
evaluating all that tissue to determine the various relationships between the tagged sharks.
Right.
So
Yeah. So this helps you then with your tags as well. The routes the sharks take, you'll be able to identify breeding areas. You'll be able to identify whether the large male and female sharks return to those breeding areas every year, and be able to establish a sort of a pattern to their movements.
well, exactly, and that's really where these come into play, and the tags. I mean, the tags are great for identifying the nursery areas,
Right.
and the benefit of the nursery areas to us is obviously there's going to be an abundance of juveniles in those areas.
Right.
So rather than
that's what you'd rather target, isn't it?
absolutely, it makes it a lot easier because you're going to get a it's all a numbers game really. So to get an accurate picture on the population and the distribution, it's really about trying to tag as many as possible.
Right.
So rather than try to focus on adults and go out and sit at a seal colony for one or two to maybe swim past.
Righto, right. You could tag a multitude of sharks in one area.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And with these 10-year tags, that's much more useful than the just 18 months or 2 years sort of thing.
Absolutely. The main benefit behind the satellite tags is really to take us to the nursery area. So it's to show us the pathways that they use, and primarily it's to show where their critical habitat or the nursery areas are.
Right. Now, I've always thought as well that this would be fantastic in 20 years of data and tracking these animals, and let's look 10 or 20 years down the track. One of the big things you'd be able to see then is any change in patterns of the sharks. They've obviously got their seasonal pattern. What happens if these super trawlers catch all of their game out in their normal routes? Would this move them closer to the shore? Or I know it's all hypothesis, but that would give you a great idea of overall changes in the ecosystem, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's been no real feedback from any of the super trawlers, but
obviously
you don't get a lot of feedback from...
A lot of money in cat food these days.
You don't get a lot of feedback from commercial fisheries either.
No.
So it's...
All got their little secrets.
That's right, and because these animals are protected species, it's not in their interest to provide too much information.
Right, right.
But in saying that, a lot of the information that we've actually been getting back has shown that these critters they do behave on a seasonal basis, but you can get variations in the environment. So the environment's just got to tweak in such a way that,
like El Nino, something like that, water temperatures.
Could be anything. So just because they're in an area this year and they're abundant in that area doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be there next year.
Right. We've had recently we've had a sort of an episode in that respect out off the coast of Port Lincoln, I believe, with near some great white shark cage diving professionals. An area which was abundant with great white sharks has suddenly been empty. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Kent?
That's been a pretty remarkable story, that, and not one that you see every day. So they had a pod of orcas go through the Neptune Islands back in February, I think it was.
Right.
And
it's 2015.
2015. This area is primarily the cage diving sites. So white sharks are there on a fairly regular basis.
Seal colonies, that sort of thing?
Big seal colony. Anyway, this pod of orcas came through in February and it killed one of the white sharks out there. Well, that scattered the pack to the point that all the white sharks left that area for a period of...
Then you're saying they've communicated, they know what's going on, they've detected the orcas and they're out of there.
That's it.
I always thought the great white shark was the top of the pecking order, but not so.
No, the orca's the man.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, they disappeared from the area for 7 weeks, and I think it's just recently that one or two have
started coming back to see it.
Poke their nose back around the corner.
Right. Gee whiz. It's terrifying, isn't it? Now, Kent, are there any other episodes of climatic change that have affected the great white shark's patterns?
Well, it's interesting because over the last it's actually been the last 7 years, with what's happened in Western Australia and more recently down the east coast of Australia.
Right.
There's been a general public outcry about whether white sharks their population's increasing or decreasing.
Right.
And long and short of it, what we try and tell the public is it's not so much a case of whether the population's increasing or decreasing, it's more a case of the environment has been changing.
So why are they coming closer to the shore? Why is there an increase in shark attacks?
Well, for example, in Western Australia, up until probably 7 years ago, they rarely saw a white shark along that strip of coast.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking to some of the commercial fishermen, some of the old surfers from the area, there seems to be a school of thought, and also with other scientists, that the current has moved closer to the shore in Western Australia.
Right. Is that the warm water current or the cold water current?
That's the warm water current. So the Lewin current has come closer to shore.
Yes.
There's been an increase in whale populations in the Southern Ocean and migrating up the coast.
Right. So everything's moving closer to the coast with this current?
Well,
maybe.
Yeah, it's not so much the current, but you're getting it's not like a perfect storm, but you're getting, you're bringing together these occurrences.
Yes.
And it creates a situation that is favourable for other species.
Because these warm water currents are famous for bringing the nutrient, small fish, bigger fish, bigger fish.
Exactly.
Off she goes.
Exactly. So Western Australia over the last 5 years has been experiencing this, and last year, well, this last summer gone, we had a similar scenario off the east coast of Australia with the warm current coming in closer to shore.
Yes, yes.
That area up around Byron Bay and the northern New South Wales, the current was closer in.
We're talking about all the areas that have had a slight increase in shark attacks.
Yeah.
Right.
So you've had more bait fish, so been more smaller fish, bait fish. There's a lot of estuaries in those areas, rivers.
Right, okay.
So that combined with...
and that's not necessarily just great white sharks,
no.
That's sharks overall.
Exactly.
Yeah, righto.
So same thing, commercial fishermen and surfers have been noticing a frequency of shark interactions in those areas has been greater.
Right.
So, but just because that's happened this year, doesn't mean it's
going to happen every year.
Exactly.
Yeah, seasons will change, go back to normal.
Exactly.
Right. Now, I always think of the great white sharks hanging around seal colonies and eating seals, and that may be the case with some of the bigger sharks that really need a big feed to keep them going once they become massive. What other foods do the great whites eat?
Well, actually, I'll pull you up on that one. It's a bit of an urban myth about white sharks living at seal colonies. So basically, they treat a seal colony a bit like a McDonald's stop. Right. So they're not permanent residents. They're travelling through.
Right. Just get a quick bite to eat.
That's it. Drive in, take away.
Yeah, that's right. So they would be just stops in their normal route.
Exactly. So these animals are migratory, and they tend to turn up at these areas, well, as we said before, on a seasonal basis.
Right.
And they actually remember areas that are good to them. So they form a blueprint in their brain about areas that have been kind to them. So you tend to find that the same shark can turn up to an area year after year after year.
Regularly, if it still provides for him.
Exactly, and virtually to the day.
Yeah, righto.
Yeah.
It's clever. Well, that's quite intelligent, isn't it? Really?
Well, that's better than most of us. We can't even use a Melrose, so...
I can if someone else is reading it.
Yeah.
So
fish is, to answer your question, seals are just an extension of their diet. Their main form of food is really fish.
Right.
Fish and rays.
Big fish?
Mainly school fish. So
right.
Your snapper, your salmon, tuna, kingfish.
Right.
They tend to follow the migratory patterns of school fish.
And stingrays.
And rays.
Really?
Yeah.
They like them?
They don't mind the odd ray.
Is that some of the scars you see on their faces? Are they from the barbed tails?
Something like that.
Yeah, right. But not enough to deter them though. No. Oh, that's fascinating. Now, you mentioned earlier the transmitters and that. You were going to mention to me different form
Yeah, I forgot to
of
mention.
transmitter you had.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that with these receivers, there's actually two types of receivers.
Right.
There's the regular acoustic receiver, which the 400mm canister, and the array of them around the Australian coast, which picks up the signals from the tags, and that has to be retrieved on a 6 to 12 months basis.
Righto, yes.
But there is actually a new system out now which has been trialled off the Western Australian coast.
Australia again.
And is linked up to the Surf Lifesaving Association in WA, where if a tag shark swims into an area, it will effectively dial up.
Right, so
that's
you're at a surf beach, one moves in that's been tagged, an alarm goes off of kinds, and clear the beach.
So, yeah.
That's much more effective than
Fisheries.
the other type of tagging, isn't it? With the triangulation and that sort of thing.
Well, yeah, it's the same principle. It's got it's an acoustic tag.
Right.
It's the same method. So the acoustic tag's been inserted in its stomach lining.
Yes.
Swum into this area, but instead of downloading to one of the regular receivers, it's actually downloading to...
It's real-time alarm of it.
That's right. So
how is this alarm transferred to the shore? Obviously there's not a wire going all the way out there.
No, it runs through what's known as the Iridium system.
Right.
So effectively it, satellite transfer again, and that then relays back to home base.
So how does this transfer through the water to the satellite, or are these ones on the surface?
No, they're on the surface.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And
so,
anchored with a buoy floating on the top.
So
right.
they're actually sitting on the surface, these.
Right, yep.
The receiver itself is sitting under the surface, but it is...
it's got a wire going to the top.
Exactly.
For want of better words.
That's right.
So this is something that's real time, and it could be a real asset for people concerned about shark attacks and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
so,
well...
popular beaches, so...
That's right. It's
obviously it only affects the sharks that are being tagged as well.
Exactly right. So
it's something.
Exactly.
I often thought about that with the great white sharks. As any predator on our planet, the first human instinct is to just go out and kill them all. Our history is full of extinct animals that we've been frightened of and destroyed. The other way to go is to collect information about them and try to understand them.
Yeah.
Which is the way you've gone.
Yeah.
And these receivers and transmitters and the data that you're going to accumulate will be a real effective source of knowledge of these sharks, and will definitely help in understanding them.
Yeah, and this combined with feedback from other oceans. So what we try and do is we try and encourage other ocean users to get involved. So by providing us with a sightings log and registers, whereby we ask for people to take photographs, give us a date, time, some idea on the animal, and then we log that information. That becomes part of our database, and that adds to this body of research.
The more help you get from sea people, the better you're going to be.
Exactly, and it also makes people feel as though they belong to a project and they're getting some sort of benefit out of it.
Yes.
So the idea is, once we create this, or once this research becomes available for public consumption, then it's available to ocean users so they can better manage their time in the water.
That would be good if you realise that there's the warm water currents are coming in, the sharks are coming in. You can be a bit more wary.
Yep.
Now, you mentioned that the database with this information on great whites can be made or might be made public in the future. How far away do you see that being? Because I imagine people wanting to get involved in this, but as you say, it would always be fantastic to be part of it and have the results there as well.
I think the idea is to start to, we are putting together a sightings register, and I mean that's going towards this database of information combined with the research. And then the idea is for the research to be extended to the public on a fairly regular basis. So,
Right.
I mean, obviously it takes years to develop research.
No, of course, and to build your databases up.
Exactly, but now through various online forums such as SwellNet, Coastal Watch,
Right.
so some of the ocean using forums, we can actually provide them with fairly recent research findings
Righto.
that can help the public make more informed decisions.
Right, yep. No, that sounds fantastic. Because I myself, I would love to be able to see where the sharks are moving and that sort of thing. That'd be quite exciting.
Yeah.
And I think that'd give me a lot of incentive to log in and put my findings or sightings, if I, hopefully I don't have any, but if I did, I would be keen to do that. Because I could see my results straight away on the screen, sort of thing. So I think that's something that'd be really good.
Yeah, the Americans have got there's an American organisation, Reasearch, that they have been tagging large adult white sharks for a number of years, and they actually have an app that they... So they'll tag some of these bigger sharks, give them a name and a personality.
Right.
So they've got satellite tags, and the public can really follow the movement of these sharks.
Right.
Bearing in mind, again, it's not real-time information, it's just...
We've discussed that. They could be hundreds of kilometres
Yeah.
away from where they are. So they're not going to go down the car park and say, Big Joe's coming past, let's go and look at him.
Exactly right.
Or let's get out of the water, Big Joe's coming, because he could be hundreds of kilometres away or much closer.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, right. But still interesting. I can imagine general public would go for that,
Yeah, I think it has a pretty good following from all reports, and I think it's probably it's quite a useful educational tool, because it I think what it does is as soon as you give something a name and a character, people identify with it, and
of course, yes,
they want to follow the story.
Right. Does this help in their funding at all? Do people give a donation to name a shark or something like that? Or?
I think with Reasearch, theirs is primarily funded by, they've got some large sponsors. So,
right.
But in saying that, I think when you get onto the app, you pay your introduction fee, and I'm sure a percentage of that probably goes back.
Righto. Well, that's interesting. Speaking of funding, how are you guys funded? As far as I can tell, you have very little funding, and you have to do a lot of it off your own backs.
Well, it's an interesting question that. With Tag for Life, we're separate from CSIRO, who are Australia's overarching body,
yes,
and the leaders in white shark research. So we tend to partner with them on all programs to do with white sharks.
Right. Yes.
Anyway, up until probably the last 5 or 6 years, as fate would have it, in line with what's happened in Western Australia.
Right. Nothing like a shark attack to get some funding, perhaps.
Bit of government incentive. Prior to that, it was really difficult to try, and it still is difficult to try and get funds. So,
and I know you quite well, and I realise that you've had to approach a lot of bigger companies and plead to get a bit of sponsorship to try and keep this thing moving.
Yep. I mean, it is very difficult, and to try and get money out of corporate Australia it's like trying to extract blood from a stone.
Right.
I'm quite disappointed that some of the ocean user groups, such as the surf industries, have not been philanthropic towards us.
Right, okay, when we're sharing the water with these creatures.
Well, here we are. I mean, the majority of incidents that have involved sharks have surfers. And I mean, it's the industry that's really created the lifestyle.
Yeah.
So you would think if they
I
had
reckon you guys could chuck a bit of money Kent's way, perhaps. I think that's a good idea. So, in the future, what are you looking at? you still need this continual funding. You need to
Always
keep
need.
it going.
Always need funding. I mean, that's
We're talking, what were these worth?
$1,000.
$1,000 for those,
Yeah.
$400 for a stomach tag, $5,000 for a satellite tag,
Boat charter.
boat charter.
So-
How many of you usually on a team?
4 to 5.
4 to 5, and you all donate your own time.
CSIRO scientists have paid wages.
Right,
We donate our time,
right.
courtesy of our generosity.
Love and honour.
That's it. Our love
For the ocean. Yeah, no, I think that's very impressive.
I stumbled across Bruce one day on the beach,
Yeah.
and he said we would love to be involved with your research. Was there anything that he could do to help us? And I said,
Some of them had iPhones.
well, we do have a habit of dropping our phones in the water.
Well, who's the gentleman's name?
That'll be Dr. Barry Bruce,
Harry Bruce.
Australia's leading research scientist.
Not good with the iPhone.
No, telephone management is not one of his strong points.
Right.
So anyway, Bruce was kind enough to donate.
A little bit.
Yep.
Now,
Snow lizard.
oh yeah. Now, Kent,
Bruce.
you're a poor, underfunded fellow. You're
Yes.
very brave, very determined. You're doing a great job. As I've said, I've got very little money, but I do sell waterproof iPhone cases. I've spoken to Catalyst,
Yes.
and they've agreed to supply you with iPhone 5 and 5S case. You've
Yes.
already got the iPhone 4 case.
Yes.
These are waterproof to 5 metres, drop
Yes.
proof for 2 metres, so Mr. Barry Bruce can drop it all he likes. He can even drop it in the water and there'll be no damage done.
Well, we'll certainly put that to the test.
Well, in that case, you better put on this floating lanyard, so when he drops it over the side of the boat, it won't sink.
Excellent.
It'll be hard to get it with the sharks around.
Excellent. Does it come with a EPIRB?
No.
Right.
No, but you just got to keep your eye on it.
Right.
Now, it's also got, because he might need, to have some earplugs in, music going, some Jaws music perhaps.
No, I think I need all that.
You can have all that. So you just screw that in,
Yep.
and you can put waterproof headphones on, whatever you like.
Right.
I've also got a bike mount. It's really a bike and bar mount.
Right.
So with this, you can put it on any bar between 2 or 3 inches, like a gaff pole or any pole, and you can stick that with your iPhone underwater, film your sharks,
Yep.
anything like that. Fishermen would love that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that's very, very useful.
Yeah.
For Barry as well, we've got a belt clip as well that fits on there, so he can have it on his side and with his lanyard, just in case. And finally, we've also got the Pro adapter. I understand that you've got some GoPro mounts on your boat.
Yes.
You can just stick this on and put your iPhone in it and just let it film.
Excellent.
Now, on the boat,
Yes.
do you have a power source that you can charge your iPhones up in? Do you go out just for the day, or if you go out for 2 days, how do you charge your phone?
We can be out there for a week.
Right.
Yes, there are. Yeah, there is provision to charge phones.
Is there? Are they waterproof?
They're in under
Undercover?
the cover.
Well, it's not really what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear that you had no way of charging your phone and it put them in a very vulnerable...
But if we go out during day trips, which
Right.
we do regularly, we
Right.
have no means of charging.
Fantastic. Because Snow Lizard have also agreed, and I'll speak to you soon about that, these Snow Lizard SL Extreme iPhone cases, waterproof to 2 metres.
Right.
They've got a solar panel on the back of them,
Right.
and they've also got I can't remember the name of the battery, lithium-ion battery inside, which will give you a full charge for your iPhone. So you
Right.
plug that in the day before you go out, charge it right up.
Yep.
Then when your iPhone's running low, you can stick it in here. They're waterproof, they work and everything.
Yep.
You can charge your iPhone fully.
Right.
And in emergencies, the solar panel on the back will give you 10 minutes talk time for every hour in the sun.
Right.
So when the boat's capsized by the massive shark and you're floating on the surface, your battery's flat,
Yep.
this will still charge up in the water.
Even though you're sitting in the middle of an east coast low off New South Wales at the moment.
It will still charge.
Now that is a fine product.
It is. I've actually been snorkeling with it, and a couple of feet underwater, the LED light flashes. It's the solar power still charges underwater.
Fantastic.
So we've given you one for the iPhone 4 and the iPhone 5 as well.
Excellent.
So, and there's more. We've got a set of steak knives that we haven't used for a while. No, not really. What I wanted to do as well with the website, because I admire what you're doing, and
Yes.
I think it's a very, very good thing you're doing.
Yes.
For any person who purchases any of the Catalyst cases or the Snow Lizard cases, I'm donating $10 for Tag for Life, which is the not-for-profit organisation
Yes.
to help your funding.
Yes.
So
That is.
anyone out there, these are fantastic cases. The Catalyst is my favourite. These guys have got solar panels and built-in batteries, perfect for camping. For every one of those you purchase, I'll donate $10 to Tag for Life to help finance Kent.
Thanks, Bruce.
My pleasure.
That is very generous.
Well, as an incentive for you people too, we want to sort of put a target out there, I suppose. So what's something that's not too expensive that we could aim for to purchase for you or to supply the money for? So I'm thinking like $400. If we $400, that gives us one of these
One acoustic tag.
acoustic tag.
Yep.
That would be fantastic.
Yep.
All right.
That would be good.
Right, so that's the go. I want you to start buying these cases up because I don't make much money on them already, but if I sell a few more, that'll make up for it. All the best to you, Kent.
Thank you, Bruce.
Anything
Great-
else
great
we
to
haven't
talk to you.
thought of saying?
I think you've covered most of it.
It's been going for a while.
Yeah, it has been going for a while.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well,
now I think I need to lie down.
all right, well,
Much appreciated anyway, it's very generous of you.
no worries. And once we get the video up, yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks.
I've spoken to you about all of this down the beach for quite a while, and thanks very much for coming in and giving us all the info.